So did you have to put stuff together for your almost like a presentation? Like, because I know. Hi, Rory.
Hello.
Hey,
How
Rory.
you doing?
All right.
Rory.
I forgot you did say to come on before 7, didn't you? Oh well.
That's all right. We were just
Rory,
getting to know. We were just getting to know
We've
one
already
another and
started.
stuff.
We're halfway through, Rory. You're too late.
Yeah.
We're halfway through. We saved the best
Rory.
to last, Rory. For you.
Rory, you're late, so get down. Give me 25 more press-ups, please.
I just did them already today.
You all right, Rory?
Oh, Ellie's fault. Yeah, I'm all right.
Oh,
Good stuff.
always my fault. Stevie, I can't hear you. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Am I not
There
coming
we go.
through?
No, I just thought.
No, we can hear you. We can hear you. So
Didn't hear you.
So did you have to like do a presentation or anything like that? Because I know when I did football coaching, at the end of it we had to do some sort of form of presentation where you do exercises and you have to do an exercise with the other coaches as well, where you have to train the other coaches and put something together like that. Did you have to do anything like that?
At the end there was a practical assessment.
Yeah.
Done, but that was so. You, as a coach, you organised a session, got players in, which generally your normal players, and someone comes in to assess you on the practical element. But most of it was theory based and academic based, and so it was a lot of writing. It was. It's almost like the start of a degree course, really. So there's a lot of essay writing, really.
Right.
Henry, can I just ask, what is going on with your hair up here? It's
It's sticking up.
I wasn't going to tell him. I was just going to leave it.
This is the first time I've not had a baseball cap on for about 3 weeks because I was sitting there going, do I do my hair? Should I put it in a top knot? Should I put it in a bun? Because it's that long at the minute.
This is one for the outtakes for your funnies, Ali. You can save that.
I've even got my
I was just going to leave it. I just thought it was great.
Coming through.
I thought it was some sort of fashion statement or something. I wasn't sure.
So I can do this. There you go. Much better.
No.
You can't go wrong with a hat.
No,
You can't go wrong with a hat. You can't go wrong with a hat. You can look a right mess and still look all right with a hat. So, okay then, guys. Well, look, as I said before, really, really pleased that you've all made it tonight. Even Rory, have you just done your 25 press-ups, Rory?
No, it's like 5 o'clock. So.
Okay. Was that after the 10-mile bike ride that you've done?
Not today. Got tennis later, hopefully.
You must be the fittest table tennis player around at the moment.
I don't know. Ellie's pretty fit, isn't he? He did 50 press-ups on the last day, didn't you?
I did see
I tried.
that. Yeah, that was pretty impressive, that, Ellie.
Did you manage 50?
Yeah, just about.
Just about. Yeah, but you've been doing bike rides. You've been doing 5K runs.
Yeah, I love it.
You've been doing all sorts of stuff, haven't you, Rory?
Yeah, I'm trying to keep
Good
fit.
stuff, Rory.
Yeah.
See, I've had the other way. I've been doing year 4 and year 7 schoolwork. So,
Well, that's on a different level. I mean, no one can touch that. Well, look, guys, like I said, really chuffed that you're all on here tonight, and really appreciate a massive wealth of table tennis experience in front of me, which is quite daunting, really, from my point of view. But no, really, really pleased. So, I mean, just so that everyone else sort of knows what you guys do and what you guys contribute. I mean, if we can go around the screen, so if we go sort of to Steve, if you'd like to introduce yourself to everyone and what you do. I mean, pretty much everyone knows you anyway.
Obviously I'm Steve Brunskill. I'm head coach at Swerve Table Tennis Centre, which is a full-time dedicated table tennis centre. It was one of the first ones, to be quite honest, in this country, and then there's been a few since then took off similar. I teach every sort of level. I've worked obviously up to national level, but I'll work with the 50 plus, I'll work with disabled, I'll work with young kids, starter people, going to the schools, colleges. So I'll work right across the board. and I have to really to keep the club good, to keep the club's numbers going, etc. So it's just one of them things. You know, I'll make the teas and coffees, whatever it takes to keep people happy. That's it for me.
Brilliant. Rory, yourself?
Okay, yeah, I've been coaching about 20 years. I'm head coach of Horsham Spinners Table Tennis Club in Sussex. Also do refereeing and I play a lot as well. Work mainly with kids, but also with some adults. So I do like after school clubs, before school clubs, and then I got my main club sessions in the evening. In terms of playing, I'm number 2 in the Irish Veterans. Yeah, so that's me.
Okay, brilliant. Ellie?
Okay, hi, I'm Ellie Baraty. I'm a full-time table tennis coach. I've been coaching for 20 years. And I started in a school, then I went onto a club, Barnet Table Tennis Club, some of you may know, and then I went on to Harefield Academy while I was also coaching part-time the England squad, the England youth squad at the time. And then about 3.5 years ago, actually almost 4 years now, I decided to go freelance and try and give my knowledge and expertise to as many people, to a big wide range of table tennis players, clubs, national teams, and individuals. So anyone who wants to improve their game, I would be there trying to give my knowledge and expertise. So today I do work with most people, but generally I work more with the intermediate to high level, national, international, elite level professional players, and that's kind of me at the moment.
Brilliant. Henry?
Cool. Yeah, so for those who don't know, my name is Henry Arthur, and I've got many hats like a lot of people in table tennis do. I suppose my main role is as a head coach for Smash Table Tennis, or what most people know as Corby Smash Table Tennis. So I probably work, well, before the lockdown anyway, about 21 hours a week with them across primary schools, secondary schools, doing breakfast, lunchtime clubs, after school, and curriculum lessons as well. And then there's obviously the club coaching as well with them. So we do sort of beginner sessions, intermediate, advanced sessions. Players, from complete beginners up to around about top 50 juniors in England, top 50, top 60 juniors in England. And then we've opened up a sister club about 8 miles from Corby called Smash Table Tennis Kettering, and that started in October. That's very, very new, but hoping that will restart table tennis in Kettering, which sadly has died in the last 10 years probably. And then I also coach as a volunteer, as head coach at my club, the club I came through, Corby Town Table Tennis Club. So that's a club that's been around for 70 years, completely voluntary run. And yes, I put my some time into that for free, giving back to the game, as well as being development officer for the local league and county coaching officer for Northamptonshire.
Brilliant. Elroy?
Yeah, my name is Elroy Edwards, and I'm an ex-professional boxer, box professionally. I had a 22-year absence from table tennis, came back in 2015. And I came back because I wanted to change my social circle. And I decided that I'm not going to go back to boxing because whatever I do, I always wanted to get involved. And I was too old to be taking knocks in my head. So I decided it's got to be table tennis. And I was 45 at the time and 44 at the time. And I joined Luton and District Table Tennis League. And at that age, I was one of the youngest in the entire league and in the club that I joined. And I decided that there's something fundamentally wrong and I've got to do something about it. And so I break away and decided to form Luton Table Tennis Club. And when I set up Luton Table Tennis Club, it was initially just as a training venue.
Yeah.
And then that the first year, the second year I had 6 teams. The third year I had 11 teams. And at the moment I got 10 teams in the league.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's really good stuff. Yeah, no, that's really cool. Look, guys, obviously, we've got some questions for you. Everyone wants to know a few different things. Me, of course. And I'll start off basically for the few questions that we had, and just sort of go around the screen and just ask these questions. If my dog doesn't jump all over me, hold on a minute.
Ali, you didn't introduce yourself.
Hey.
You didn't introduce yourself.
Yeah. So I'm Ali Pearson. Some of you might know me, some of you might not. Not really well known, to be fair, in table tennis. I've just sort of started back about 3 years ago. I had about a 15, 16-year break. I used to play all the tournaments. I played pretty much sort of five or six Prem divisions locally. I used to do the Grand Prix, and I used to do the played county level. And then I sort of packed up because I was looking to start my own business, and I couldn't put the same time in that I really felt I needed to stay at a standard that I was at that point. And probably a bit selfishly, I thought, well, if I can't stay at that standard, then I won't play at all. So it was one of those sort of, I had to make that decision, and also had to pay the bills as well at the same time, and table tennis wasn't paying as much as what I was going into at the time. So unfortunately, I packed up for about 15, 16 years. And then once that business sort of got up and running, I was able to spend less time focusing on my business and more time on stuff that I used to enjoy, which was table tennis. So I sort of got back into table tennis in a massive way, sort of fell back in love with it all over again, and then here we are now. I'm sort of back playing to a fairly good level for 3 years back. I'm not anywhere near as classy as you guys are, but I'm sort of doing okay, and I really have been watching a lot of your stuff on YouTube and stuff, just to get some tips and tricks and advice and how to get back to it all, because when I was sort of last playing, it was a completely different game then. When I was a junior, I was getting coached by the likes of Kevin Satchel, it was a different era back then. It was all about serve, it was all about third ball attack, it was all about speed glue, it was all about 5 serves, it was all about maximizing, concentrating on your serves and perfecting your serves to a degree that you almost, that's what it was. You basically built your game around the serve. And so that's what I was sort of brought up with. And then obviously when I came back, it was all different. You had a bigger ball, and the score was all silly, and you had to play 5 sets and all this sort of stuff, So it was a big shock for me. And also everyone can get the ball back now, whereas they couldn't really do that before. Well, it just seems that way now anyway. Maybe I'm just really slow, I don't know. And they just get the ball back a lot more. But no, it's been really good. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the challenge. I've sort of got back to a fairly decent level. I know I'm not going to be world class. I appreciate that. But I'm enjoying it, and I'm doing stuff like this, and it's great. I'm getting to chat to you guys, and with all the experience and stuff that you've got, it's amazing. Yeah, so it's cool.
Nice.
So Okay, well, look, I'll go through some of these questions that I've got, and we'll try and sort of go through these as best we can. So, if we start off with Steve, you know, I mean, the biggest question is really, you know, what made you become a coach? You know, why did you become a coach? I mean, because obviously, you know, you played at a really high level. And I suppose it's a sort of natural progression and stuff like that. But you know, there's something about coaches, isn't there? There's something about you guys that are just on a different level, you know. So
it came about by necessity, really. When I look back, when I was playing, I was probably about 5 years too late, because
right.
the club was brilliant and it had an incredible setup with top players left, right and centre from the club. And I caught the tail end of that. But by the time I got to a standard where I was good enough to maybe give them a bit of practice, they'd all got to that age where they're all stopped. And it left this big void. And there was nobody near my standards. Well, there was one player roughly my standard, but we kept away from each other, which was a stupid thing when I look back now. But out of necessity, I just found somebody who would turn up every day, regardless, work the socks off, and do as I asked. And that player was Mark Simon. Actually, I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning his name. And he's an incredibly good friend of mine and a really great guy. But he was a lot worse at the time. Like back then it was up to 21 with the old ball and everything.
Yeah. Proper table tennis.
I would probably have started beating him round about game 2s and 3s when I started practicing with him. But he was so reliable, and I needed to get in better as quick as I could. So it kind of just evolved from that. I started coaching him, so I had somebody better to practice with, and I think that was the start of me coaching. And at the end of it, I mean, he probably ended up doing better than I did, because he played. I'm sure he played for his country. He's from he's Welsh. He certainly represented in some form, and he was quite a decent player at the end. So that was the start of it. And then secondly, from then on, I just loved helping people, and that's why I coach now today. I love helping people improve. It doesn't matter in what format. Somebody can be 70, 80-year-old, and if they still want to improve, I love that. I absolutely love the fact that I can help, or hopefully help them improve. And that's what I get out of coaching. You know, it doesn't matter what level. If I can help them get them better, and they enjoy it, even if it's just to get more enjoyment or to get more social from it, that'll do me. I'm happy with that. You know, so necessity firstly, secondly, just for the fact that to help people improve.
That's brilliant. I mean, because I've watched stuff with you with Dennis.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what was that like?
Dennis, Dennis, I like Dennis. I get on fairly well with Dennis, and I actually got him back at the club doing bits of coaching at the time. So he was there, not full time like he is now. I actually asked him to come back, and he's really good to work with, to be quite honest. He's great in your corner, and he's good to work with, and obviously extremely knowledgeable.
Yeah, I mean, it's just some of the stuff. I mean, I watched a few bits and pieces where you were in there as well and stuff, and it's just so full of knowledge, isn't he? I mean, it's just there, isn't it? You know, everything. You know,
what I like about Dennis's coaching is it's very simplistic. So it's this is how it is, and that's it. It's like it's A, B, and C, and that's it. He doesn't flower it up at all or anything like that. So I quite like, you know, he's not for everybody, but I actually get on with him quite well.
I like that sort of coaching. I like the sort of, this is how you do it, this is how it's done, that's how you do this is how you get that. You know, it's direct. You know,
he's very much like that. Yeah, very much.
No, that's cool. Okay, Rory.
Okay, so yeah, bit similar to Steve. I started playing quite late. I was 15 when I started playing, and I started playing in school. Well, I played in France on holiday first, but then I started playing in school. And I got into kind of coaching because after the kind of first year of me playing, I was the best in the school, and the younger, pupils in the school who were starting off, there weren't so many people to practice with, so I was trying to get them up to my level so I could have someone to practice with, a bit like what Steve was saying.
Yeah.
That's where it first started. Then when I was like 18, 19, went to university, joined a club. Again, there weren't so many people to play with in the club. There were some very good players who wouldn't practice with me. I still wasn't particularly good at that age. And so I went along. I knew there were some good juniors. I went along to the junior session, and the coach said to me that I could practice with some of the top juniors who were, a little bit better than me at the time, in return for me helping him with some of the kind of beginnery lesser juniors. So I did that for a while, and then I started. I became the kind of captain of the team at Trinity College Dublin, and I kind of did a bit of coaching with some of the beginner students in the university. And then when I came to England, then it kind of kicked off. I got coaching qualification, my club Hollingbury, which when I joined, they put me through a course. Then I started up a kids session at Brighton University, where I was studying pharmacy at the time. And in fact, when I got there, there was nothing there at all. And we got a grant for 4 tables, and I had like 3 sessions going, and teams in the league and junior sessions within the space of a few months of turning up in the country. So yeah. And then I did volunteer, and that was all volunteer coaching. I did volunteer coaching for about 5 years, maybe start to charge like a very small amount towards the end of that 5 years. And then I was going to do a PGCE to become a teacher. And I randomly got this call from Ian Ford, Horsham District Council. He rang me up and asked me, was I interested in becoming a full-time table tennis coach? And I said, what? I hadn't really considered it up to that point. I'd just been doing it as a bit of fun, part-time, not even charging. So anyway, I said, yeah, that'd be interesting. Kind of met with him. He had funding, various grants from the council, and he set me up in a whole lot of different school sessions and the main club session. So I did that for Horsham Table Tennis Club for about 4 years. Well, I was kind of doing it. I did it actually for 6 years, but the last 2 years was partially self-employed and still partially working with him. And then in 2011, I just decided to start up my own table tennis club, Horsham Spinners Table Tennis Club, and yeah, it's gone from there. Just that's my job now. Well, it's been my job since 2005, so 15 years of full-time coaching.
And Horsham Spinners is pretty successful now. I mean, you've got quite a lot of juniors coming through. You've got British League teams. You've got like all sorts of stuff.
Senior British League teams, National Junior League, National Cadet League, local league teams. We did have players that won the national schools finals under 11s. Then they went on to win it at under 13s, and then they won it at under 16s last year. Unfortunately, we're kind of going through a lull at the moment where a lot of these players have either gone too old or they've quit for whatever reason. But we've got about 15, kind of maybe 20, about 20 if you include the under 11s of players, and we're trying to build back up again. But yeah, we'll get there again. This is my background is a picture of my club session. So
yeah, it's good. It sounds as though you're sort of gaining sort of strength in depth, really, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, we've got a lot of players who play in the league that don't come down to the club sessions as well. So it's kind of we kind of cater for them as well. So
cool.
Very nice.
All right. Well, Ellie.
Okay. For me, it's simple. I just one day decide I'm going to be a coach. No, I'm kidding. Well, like most of these guys, I started actually also a little bit late, age 14, and that was because of a film called Forrest Gump, and something just sparked me from that film. So I went on to become a player, and I've always been into sports. I've never been a great academic. And I was always fascinated how these superhumans were so great. How are they so good? Well, what are they doing? So I would try to study, even at a young age, or try to understand what's happening. It can't be just, it's not magic. It can't just be special like this. So I started to look into what's making them special. And I found that the biggest, what I think is the biggest key ingredient was the coach. The coach was the one that was able to enhance their abilities and make them superhuman. So obviously I became a player, and I would ask all the top players, who's your coach? Who's your coach? I'll be hunting around who their coaches are. And I would try and get one of those coaches to be my coach. And often it would be someone from Manchester, from Liverpool, from all over the place, but it wasn't from the area that I wanted. And the area that I wanted, the so-called top coaches were gone. So I kept asking around. And one day I found one player who was moving up the ranking fast like I was. And I said to him, who's your coach? So he said to me, Gideon Asherson. I said, where's he based? He said, in London. So I thought, fantastic. I go to school in London. I'll catch the train. I'll get there. So I contacted him, obviously, and I said, can I join you? He said, with pleasure. So I joined him, and I started training with this kid, and I saw Gideon's passion and love. And he's going to hate me for saying this, but he wasn't the most highly technical coach in the world. But he possessed something far more important. He cared. He genuinely cared. And that caring came across to all the players that were there. It was very small. We used to train in a shed, and we also trained in his community. He lived in like a council estate, and they had like a community little hall. So we had one table, and with all the kids and the players that would come there would have to share that one table. And that one table became, the table time became cherished.
Yeah.
It was very, very important. That 10 minutes that you had to give it everything. So he taught us discipline. He taught us to fight for what you believe in. And players that came down there were top juniors. Marco Samba, you might have heard of maybe in your time, not sure. And obviously Darius Knight, most people will have heard of him nowadays. Yeah. And I was about 7-8 years old than Darius, and there was a couple of others. There was Chris Lewis and a couple of others. And I basically started coaching them because they weren't as good as me. They were youngsters, so similar to the other guy's stories. And they progressed very quickly, and that enabled me to train with them. And then I decided, okay, I need more. So I went abroad and I trained abroad, and I saw what a professional structure looked like. There was a professional coach, there was a few assistant professional full-time coaches, and my eyes were opened. It was 30 tables, that one club that I went to. It was just magnificent. Anyway, so unfortunately, the amazing coach that I did have in France was a bit harsh, and he's basically said to me, look, you're never going to be a top player. You might as well give up. Not give up, but don't have these big dreams. Because I had big dreams, and I'm happy to admit it. I wanted to be a world champion. And so once he kind of... I think we all do. I just see deep down, I think we all have that. So basically, once he said that to me, it was a bit of a realization, okay, maybe I need to find a new pathway in life. So I went back to England, and I was lost. Didn't quite know which direction I'm going to go into. My family wanted me to go to university and, get a so-called normal job. And Gideon said to me, look, I'm probably going to be retiring. Would you be interested in coaching? I've seen you work with the kids. You're great. You're enthusiastic, and you've got my knowledge and the French knowledge now, and you can combine it. So he offered me his job, which was at King's College School down in South London, Wimbledon. And I took that on board, and I just really enjoyed it. It was a great experience for me. And I got a little bit of success. And I think, like anything, once you get a bit of success, then you thrive for more. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Barnet Tipton Centre, I was living in around that area anyway. I used to train there sometimes. They said to me, look, we're not too happy with our coach. Would you be interested in taking the role? And I jumped onto it. And I had huge success there. I had about 10 England squad players within a couple of years, 2-3 years, youngsters, aged between 9 and 13. Players like Zach Zeleznik, who was number 1, and Tintin, who is number 1 now, and her brother, who was number 2 or something. I had, like I said, an amazing squad. And then the England coaches said, like, hey, who's this kid out of nowhere producing all these little ones? So they invited me to coach at the England squad, and I did that with, you know, the likes of Liam Pitchford, Gavin Evans, Sam Walker, all that kind of group. And again, great experience for me, and I was able to talk to all the England coaches, and I was put on performance coaching seminars. And then all of a sudden, I get a phone call from a school which had just been built for a performance sports for all sports. They had the Watford Football Club there. They had the table tennis program which they just wanted to develop. So they called me up, said, are you interested? Yes, cool. So then I went and had a full-time program in the school. And then again, I managed to produce many top players, and we won many championships, and we became 6th best school in the world. And that's basically kind of like the pathway of how it all began. But I have to say, Gideon was, if it wasn't for him saying, hey, do you want to coach at this school? I would never be coaching today. Yeah, definitely him. So coach made the coach.
Coach made the coach. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Henry.
So, completely different really from Ellie, and a little bit more like Rory, to be fair. To be honest, I never saw myself getting into any kind of coaching role when I was younger, even my 20s really. I worked in retail management, and I decided I needed a change. I'd had enough of working weekends and evenings, which doesn't make sense now, obviously, if that's what I do. But I decided I needed a change. So I thought, what kind of job would I like to do? I thought, you know what, I want to become an accountant. So to become an accountant meant studying evening classes. So I had to quit my job and went to work in a factory, doing 6 till 4 every day. So I could do the evening class to become an accountant. 3 months into working in this factory, the machine I was working with malfunctioned and crushed me, and then it almost died. Whisked off to hospital, broken bones and everything internally and all that kind of stuff. And it took me out of sport completely for a long time. So that happened on my 33rd birthday. Put me out of sport for a long time. I spent probably a year on the sofa at home, a bit like I'm doing now with the furlough, playing PlayStation, eating fudge and Pringles. But within that, I started just looking into table tennis. So table tennis, for me, had always been my second sport behind football. So I played it, did okay locally, but I'd never really, never really been my main sport. But while I was off, I started looking, YouTube and everything a bit more about table tennis and understanding more about the bigger picture. Because I only really understood local league, maybe county, nothing out of that. And from that, although I still couldn't really play, I went back to my club at Corby Town to help the coach there, so Tom Cardwell, who had been my coach when I started. Tom's still doing it now. He's 80-odd years old, or he's 81 now. But I went back to assist him in the sessions he was doing with, 6-7 kids that they had. And that's kind of how I got into coaching. So it wasn't really, planned. I kind of fell into it. But then I started understanding, say, the coaching and the bigger world of table tennis. And I thought, we haven't had that in my town, that people understanding the wider world of table tennis. So I thought, I'm going to try and see if I can start building that. And it's been, I suppose, successful, really. So I think I was 30, probably 35, 34, 35 when I sort of first started assisting at my local club. And from that, obviously, I did the qualifications, level 1, level 2 qualifications, and now obviously the level 3. But my first sort of paid job was working in conjunction with the county council doing the ping project. So I did the ping project in Ketchen and Northampton. And then I started working with my local council, Corby Council, not in table tennis, but multi-sports. So working in primary schools doing multi-sports coaching. And I started also working with what used to call Premier Sport, now called Premier Education Group. So same kind of thing as what I was doing with Corby Council, lots of different kinds of multi-sports. Enjoying it, getting lots of knowledge about different sports. And then Corby Smash came out. So Corby Smash opened, January 2016. I first spoke to Colin Wilson and Tony West, who were the people behind it, about August 2015 maybe. And started working for them sort of January 2016. That's when I became full-time table tennis, and I knocked all the other sports stuff on the head. So I was doing like rugby for under sevens and lots of different things, archery. But yeah, then sort of went specific to table tennis. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Very nice.
Pretty sporty then, really.
I probably was a better coach than I was a sportsman. Yeah, or at least I hope I am. Anyway, I say from a playing perspective, I never took the game really seriously until I'd had that accident at work, and when I came back and gradually built my my fitness up, and actually started getting found a coach to give me some lessons to improve me. And I had a goal where I just wanted to get picked for my county team. That was my goal, and I reached that goal, and I was very, 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 very pleased.
But I mean, you still played. I mean, you're still a top player, and you still played at a pretty high standard, mind.
Yeah, but yeah, no, okay, yeah, and but I think for me, I'm one of those players who hopefully can prove that you're never too old as well.
Yeah.
I definitely got better as I turned around the 40 mark. And the reason I got better, I was taking it seriously and I was practicing and training. There's
hope for me, yeah. There's hope for me, yeah.
There's no secret to improving, is there?
No, it's true.
Elroy there obviously says he had a long breakout. So myself and Elroy were teammates in British League a few years ago as well.
Yeah.
Along with Sam Wilson, who's now number 12, 13 in England seniors.
Yeah, pretty hot, isn't he?
Amazing how much he improved in that, 3 years maybe?
Short space of time.
Yeah.
So there is a secret of improving then.
There is, yeah. And there's no age limit on it either, by the sounds of it.
Plenty of our body can take it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Elroy.
Okay, well, my first spell of coaching was as a teenager. And the success of Luton Table Tennis Club didn't just happen like that. My first club was as a teenager in London, Battersea, Providence House Table Tennis Club. And I brought the club from Division 6 to Division 1.
Amazing.
And every year I was the highest average.
Yeah.
And I went back to Jamaica for a while. And in the team, I was the person who always kind of guiding the rest of the players. I was the best player in the team. So I was always coaching them, practicing, knocking. And then I went on to be a professional boxer. And so I had a 21-year absence. And as I said, when I came back, which is 4 years ago, 2015. Yeah, and the club I joined, Vauxhall Table Tennis Club, I realized that the average age was 60. And as I said, at 44, I was one of the youngest in the league, one of the youngest in the club.
That's nuts, isn't it?
And to be honest, it was kind of a negative vibes for me, because I'm thinking, I come back to this game and there's no youngsters.
It's all the youngsters gone.
Yes, but then I started to travel a bit, and I realized that the problem is a problem all over the UK.
Yeah.
It's a big problem in Luton. and that I have to do something about it. I did approach the coach at Vauxhall and I said, can you start the club 1 hour earlier so I can coach some of the youngsters? But they're not interested because they want the table time for themselves. So I decided that I'm going to do something about it. And that's when I started searching and searching. And at the time I was involved with Lucy Farm Learning Center because I also do music promotions. So I used to do promotional music events at the center.
Right.
And I saw the opportunity. And that's when I set up Luton Table Tennis Club.
So your aim was to try and just bring some more youngsters into it.
More youngsters, more youngsters. Yeah. That was my main aim, and that's the history. And
because I mean Ellie's been at your club a few times, I think, hasn't you, Ellie?
Well, loads.
I'll tell you how me and Ellie meet quickly. I phoned Gideon because when Gideon just started, I was the person who used to knock with Gideon and get him to learn the game fully. Yeah. But then he went on to be a coach, right? So I found Gideon and I says, I want to get back in table tennis. I know I'm not a spring chicken, but I'd still like to reach like top 100 because the players that I used to play against was like Abdul Ruella, who they were like top 15. But when we were top 60, these guys we had many problems on the table. So I found Gideon and I was asking him, is he still coaching? And he says, nah, but I will introduce you to someone, Baraty. So I went to the academy and I met
I've seen some of those vids, you know. I've seen some of those vids where Ellie's up at your place doing it with the kids. It's brilliant.
And that's how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Well, okay, so that's sort of giving us.
Sorry, Ali, what I was just going to say. So I did mention I never really saw myself getting into coaching, but I'd been a retail manager, and obviously our question was, what made you become a coach? Yeah. And it's only, I suppose, I look back on my time as a retail manager and realised actually that's when I started coaching, and I enjoyed working in retail, but when I look back at it, the best thing I liked was taking kids on at 16 years old, and working with them for 2 years until they went off to university, and helping them progress in those 2 years. And I suppose that was really my first introduction to coaching. And I look back to what I learned in that period, and I work with how it works with what I do now as well. I can see the comparisons, and I suppose that's, again, it's the big thing. It's how you can help people to.
Well, it's like what Steve was saying as well. It's I think it's that feedback, isn't it? It's that you guys don't get an awful lot of recognition, in my opinion, for what you guys do. But I think
all coaches really to help people, aren't they?
I think although it's, in my opinion, I think you guys should have loads of recognition for what you do. But I think from coaches' points of view, from what I can gather, I don't think you're overly concerned about the recognition part, because I think you get the recognition part from what you give and what you receive back from the people that you're coaching, and the responses that you get, and the success that they're doing is almost like that's the payback for you guys, isn't it? That's really the payback. Is it's not really, I'm Ellie and I've done this and I've done that, or I'm Elroy and I've done this and that. I don't think that's really the recognition part. The recognition that you guys really seek is from the players and how well they do from your input.
Yeah, definitely.
Over that time period. And I think that's probably worth more than the money, to be fair.
Yeah, for sure.
Am I right? You
Not
know?
sure about
No, but I mean, like deep down,
that.
Well, it
it's
is
nice to be
I-
paid.
It's
Yeah,
It's
clear
nice
it's
to be
worth more
paid,
than
but
you
it's,
want.
it's
I always
Because-
wonder when it comes to well-paid coaches, also things like football and stuff, because they say the same things. They're in it for what you've just said.
yeah.
And I sometimes wonder, you say, okay, you're earning $5 million a year. If you weren't earning that $5 million, would you still be in
Would
it?
you
And
still do
I
it?
actually think a lot of them probably would do it, because I think a lot of them do love it. But there will be some who, and there's nothing wrong with it, saying, you know, I'm in it because I want to.
I just want I want the
I want
paycheck.
money, and I want the fame and the admiration. I want
Yeah.
to provide for my family, whatever it might be. And that's fine. That's fine.
But I think from
most of them do that with it.
from sort of coaches and stuff like yourselves, and that it's more, isn't it? It's more than that.
I'll tell you how much I was in it for the money. This is true. This I come from an engineering background, and I didn't really enjoy my job, and I actually had quite a well-paid job at the time, and I started coaching. I was coaching, obviously, like most people, voluntary. I wasn't getting paid. And a young lad who I was coaching for a couple of years, he started getting quite good. He won't mind me using his name, Stephen Uppel. He got to about England under 10 junior, and then he went into acting. He's an actor now. And great lad, and the most dedicated player ever. And he offered me, I think I was earning at the time around about £500 a week on this, working on the rigs. And he offered me £70 a week to coach him 5 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I took it.
You were on 500 quid a week.
Yeah, and
At the time.
I honestly,
And you took it.
I took his offer because I thought to myself, this is an opportunity. I'm guaranteed £70 a week. I've got a guaranteed £70 a week, and that's my starting point. And then I added other things. I sold things second hand. I did car boot sales, everything to make up the extra, the lack of money. But that's true. That he offered me £70, Stephen Uppel, and I took him on it.
Wow, that's some passion. That's some passion. That is. My missus would have killed me.
Yeah,
my missus would have killed me if I'd have said, "Oh, all right, love, I'm just going to do some coaching for 70 quid a week."
Yeah.
She'd have just slapped me so hard. It's like we were saying, it does go back to that. But I mean, you guys have built quite a big reputation and stuff, and you've got big followings and stuff. And all right, you might not be multi-millionaire coaches out of it and stuff, but if I think it's, are you happy? Are you happy with what you're doing?
It's a great job, isn't it? It's a wonderful job.
Stevie, you said to me, it was really interesting. I came up to Swerve and I loved it, and I use it all the time now. You said to me, if I gave you £10 million a year, would you still be doing what you're doing today? And the answer is yes, I still would be coaching. So there you go. So the money is irrelevant.
It would be nice.
It would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice.
So anyone out there that just wants to just throw a little money at coaches, go for it.
It's second. It's definitely second.
Definitely second. Yeah, definitely second.
Cool. All right. Well, look, I'm going to go through this we've got a few questions to go through, and I'm running out of a lot of time, but I think we're going to have to do a continued episode, I think, definitely, because there's just so much to talk about. It's unbelievable. So I think we will do a continued episode if you guys want to do it. But I'll go through this other question anyway. It was just something that I have so many discussions about this sort of stuff, and a lot of people do, and this one particular question is, can a player's ability be enhanced by simply a change of blade or rubber? So basically, someone who plays and they might change their rubber or their blade or something, do you feel that just that will change and make that player better? And I know probably Simon Morgan's going to go mad over this one, but anyway, it's but do you think that could happen? Do you think, because I have some thoughts on that, and I'd like to hear what you guys think. So literally, you've got a player, he's changed his bat or his rubber, or you've advised him to change his bat or his rubber, and then all of a sudden he's playing much better or much more consistent than that?
Or worse.
Is it all a load of bollocks, or is it right?
There's a bit of both, really. It's my pet hate, actually. I see so many people I coach who'll say, "Oh, I've changed my rubber," and they'll play for 5-10 minutes, and they'll be saying, "Oh, I'm playing brilliant," and then the next day, "Oh, it's rubbish that I'm getting rid of it. I'm going back to this," and they keep changing. And for me, obviously, if you find the correct rubber and the blade that you're comfortable with, it will make a difference, but it's only a minimal difference. Unless you maybe like Rory, where you'll play with pimples, and especially if it's long pimples, then I think you have to find the correct combination. But if you're just an ordinary reverse rubber player, I don't think it makes the difference people think. And I think a good player, and I've got a story actually about this. I was on holiday in Mexico, and where below where we were laying sunbathing, I could hear there was a table tennis table, and I could hear the ball go in. And all of a sudden, this day, it sounded completely different. It sounded like somebody down there can play. So I went and had a look over the balcony, and all I could see was a hand coming out, and the shots that this hand was doing, because when I was looking over, I couldn't quite catch the person, were unbelievable. And it was with a piece of wood with rubber hanging off it, and you know, the type of bat had been left out in the sun. And it, honestly, I said, God, who's this person that I can see? That you could see he didn't need to have good bat or a good bat or rubber. And then, believe it or not, a little tornado come through right at that point and wiped all the tables and chairs, and everybody had to do a runner. And I didn't find out who it was till the next day. And the next day I went to play tennis, and he's Big D, Chris Duran, at the tennis court.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's a true story, actually. I remember Chris telling me.
Yeah, it was him. So we ended up playing tennis all holiday, and especially Big D, because there was a Romanian girl there who was obviously more his and quite attractive. So he spent all holiday. Nowhere to lie. This is Chris I'm talking about here. He was getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning, doing shuttle runs in the tennis court, 7 till 8. Then he'd do a circuit class. Then he would play tennis for about 3 solid hours in 40, 50 degrees of heat. He was super fit at that time. But the moral of the story is he has a great hand, and he was a brilliant player with just a lump of wood. And I just think if you give a top player any bat that you're not happy with, they'll do a good job with it. And likewise, you could get the best bat in the world, and it's going to make maybe 1 point difference or 2 point difference. It's not going to make.
I think mainly it was probably more of a question of like almost like style of play, like, you know, because obviously, you know, a lot of players have got different styles and they're coached different ways and stuff like that, and maybe certain shots maybe are suited to maybe different bats or rubbers, maybe, I don't know.
Unless you're a combination player like say sort of Rory, I think it's only minimal. It's only minimal.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's it. It's for those elite players, they maybe can use those slightly different the rubbers they've got, the slightly different technology that rubbers have got. But for the average league player in England, they're probably, in my opinion, using equipment that they shouldn't be using. It's probably too advanced, and I put myself into that as well. Can equipment make you better? Yes, a lot of it is probably a psychological effect. I think. Again, I think you said if it feels right, and that's what it's got to feel right. So for me, does the blade feel right in my hand? The weight, the feel of the handle. And once I find something that feels nice in my hand, I'm happy with that, and I'll only change it when it needs change because it's wrecked, and I'll try and find the same blade again. Or, you know, I've been using the same equipment for 5 years maybe. You know, but yeah, it can make it different. It can make people worse.
Because I mean, the reason why I asked it was because I mean, obviously, like Rory plays with long pimps and is really effective with it, you know, and
Rory's not bad with normal rubbers as well.
Well, yeah, probably as well. Well, he twiddles as well, so it makes it even harder, doesn't it? You know, so it's but but you know, I mean, Rory, is it something that you started with, or is it something that you changed, or?
No, so I played 13, 14 years with just normal rubbers, both sides, and I got to a decent level, I'd say county level and that. And then I just kind of, you get a bit bored, don't you? You want something a bit different. And I found that I was playing some, higher players and better ranked players, and I'd get to like 9-all in the fifth or something, and I just missed 2 returns of serve, and I thought some other people like who were worse than me changed to long pimples, and they had no technique or whatever, and they just suddenly, you'd see them coming up the rankings and even beating me when they, before I would have beaten them easily. So I thought I'll try it out. I had tried it out a couple of times in the past and not done anything with it, but one time I got a bit bored. I took a rubber off my backhand. I just thought, let's stick a sheet of long pimples on it.
See what happens.
I think it was the band 2 in the morning, and I lost both of them juice in the 5th against higher ranked players, and then in the band 3 in the afternoon, I think I got to the semis or something, and I beat two people. This is with pimples, having not practiced with them at all. Just shoved them on there without having played with them before, and I got to the semis and I beat 2 people I'd never beaten before. So I thought, well, if I can do that in one day, then
what can I do for a little while?
Over the course of that year, I probably wasn't significantly better, because I would lose to some people I would always beaten, and I'd beat some people I never beaten before. Sorry, but after that year, I noticed that I was going up the rankings and getting better, and I cut out the silly losses, and I was still getting the good wins.
And do you think that was just down to the fact that it was just different? It was just different stuff going on, and just. Yeah, other people were just not quite used to that sort of thing. And
that is a lot of it. Like, because I mean, I would go for like what looks like a heavy dig with the pimples, and someone goes to push it, and then it goes straight up in the air, and I just cream it.
Smash it.
I've always had a decent smash. So if I get any high ball, that's it. Usually, unless they're really
no technique, Rory, just
with a kaka at the end of it.
There's a bit more to it than that. Yeah, you've got to have your kaka.
That's a bit. I remember reading a podcast from Tom Lodziak. Do you know Tom Lodziak, Ali?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I read a podcast or a blog or something from him, and I think he said that there was over 262 million different combinations of rubbers and blades and everything.
I've tried them all.
But to answer the question as to whether rubbers can make a difference, I'd agree with what people have said so far. So basically, if you're just changing from one reverse rubber to another, you might get a couple of points, maybe.
Yeah.
It might make the difference in a really close match, and again, a lot of it's psychological and how the bat feels. Some people like a hard rubber. So I personally prefer a bit of softness in it, a bit of feeling. That it can make a couple of points difference, but it might help you win some close matches. But it's not going to make you into the the next level of player. But changing to a long pimple, or even a short pimple, or medium pimple, or anti-spin, or whatever, could, in theory, make certain players much better, depending on if it suits their style.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done it a few times with players with long pimples mainly. I've had a player who just like blocked everything, backhand everywhere on the table, and he had no forehand, and he was good, but I just thought this style is absolutely perfect for long pimples, and it was, and he got so much better with long pimples. Another player, I ended up I started him off on short pimples, that helped a bit. Then he went to long pimples on his backhand, that brought him to the next step up, and then I put short on his forehand and long on his backhand, and he went up to another level. So I think if you're completely changing the surface, it can. I mean, it doesn't always work.
But it's dependent on your style of play, I suppose. I
have put 2 or 3 people onto pimples and then realized that this isn't working, or maybe it worked very short term, and then I decided they didn't need them anymore, so they went back to normal rubbers. So sometimes it's just a matter of keeping the player in the game. Sometimes, I mean, I had a player who wasn't really that keen. He was playing once a week. He wasn't improving. He didn't listen to any coaching advice. And then I got him onto long pimples, and suddenly he's starting to, because that was suited his style, and suddenly he's starting to beat people. And next thing, he's playing twice a week, 3 times a week. At the end of that first, so I think he started off the season in division.
Do you think that suited his style, though? Do you think that just sort of suited his style, and that's why he started to think, well, actually, I quite like this now because I'm getting the ball back?
Yeah, and because he was more successful, he took it more seriously. And by the end of that first year, he started off in Division 2. He had 90-something%. Then he went to Division 1 halfway through the season, got 90-something%. And then he was in the Premier second half of the season, and he got about like 33% in the Premier. So, you know, he continued playing on. He beat Tom Maynard, actually. It was his best ever win, was Tom Maynard as a junior. But he quit after juniors. But yeah, that's the way it goes sometimes.
You're border playing with pimples.
So it sounds as though that in certain circumstances, it depending on styles and your sort of the way you think about the game, it could well. It could well.
Actually, going back to the same player, they banned frictionless long pimples in, I think it was 2007. So this player then went to anti-spin and then he went to normal rubbers, and he was still quite good, but I think it was a bit demotivating once he couldn't play quite to that same level. That's probably why part of the reason.
Yeah, I remember the frictionless stuff. Yeah, I remember all that. But I mean, and like I said, the only reason why I asked that question, because like when I came back, I mean, I literally came back and I had no idea what bat or rubbers or whatever I should be using. So I just thought, well, I'm just going to get the fastest rubber and the fastest blade going and just wallop the crap out of everything that I possibly can. And that was sort of my mindset. And then over a period of time, it was like, actually, I can't do that. You know, and so I gradually sort of weaned my way through all these different rubbers and blades and balsa blades, 7.5 jobbies, you know, because I just thought, well, if I can just hit it faster than anyone else, then I should be okay. But that really didn't work for about 12 months. So I ended up going back to something a little bit more sensible, which was like an all wood blade, funnily enough, you know, an offensive all wood blade. With sort of Tenergy on and stuff like that, 05 FX, and that sort of calmed me down and I was able to actually get the ball on the table as opposed to in the wall or in the roof, you know, so it sort of helped. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking into short pimples now because, you know, I mean, I've been dabbling around with it and I've been seeing the sort of success that certain people have with short pimps and stuff. And
being different is very effective. I mean, having something that someone's never seen before, that's kind of me. I mean, I've got some different I've got the pimples, I twiddle, I try.
I mean, you mess loads of people about, Rory. I mean, you know, I mean, I've watched you at tournaments and stuff like that, and you just, you know, it's horrible to see the frustration on people's faces, you know, when they're just like looking at their bat and looking at you and then looking at what they've done and they've like, what have I got to do? What have I got to do?
I think I kind of realized that, you know, I got to a certain level and, you know, maybe I could have got better and who knows, but I kind of thought to get Riley to the next level, I needed to kind of be different. And, you know, if you're not the best player, you know, started too late, never got any coaching, I think, you know, certain people in certain times of their lives, it's good to change. It keeps you interested in the game. It makes things interesting sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Elroy, you were just sort of like, what do you think, mate?
Every player got a different feel and a different touch, and so there's a blade and there's a rubber. There's a combination for every different player, but changing rubbers around will help you to a certain point, but it all boils down to your ability in there.
Yeah.
If you don't have that ability, it's like I buy those what's those most expensive rubber
Dignex.
I bought them, but I've never used it. I mean, I've practiced with it, and people say, "Why don't you use it?" I says, to be honest, I wouldn't be able to get the best out of those rubbers, so it's no problem. I'm going to use it in a match. certain rubbers to me is for the top players them who done a certain amount of training to get the best. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So certain rubber is not for certain. It depends on your
So basically, there's an element in there. There's an element where a certain rubber could make a certain change, but ultimately, it's down to the individual to they still got to put that work ethic in to get it.
Yeah.
You've got to avoid being the kind of pathological equipment junkie like Simon Morgan is. You know, every 5 minutes he's got a new rubber and he tries it. Like every day you look at Facebook, only being used for 5 minutes. Anybody's got any offers? Like,
I thought he got better actually. I think he's settled down on his medium pimps now. I think so. But yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, but to be fair to him, you know, I went through that stage this sort of last year where I was just, you know,
I've never had enough money to go through that stage.
I putting bits of carpet and stuff on my back just to see if that would do any better. I don't know.
I've had hellfire long pimples on my back end since they came out. I don't know, 8 years ago, whenever it was. Staying there.
I'm going to give you. Oh, right, that's fine.
Sorry,
Ellie. That's all right.
No, sorry, Ellie. Did I miss you out there? Sorry, man. We were just like.
I'm interested in hearing what Ellie has to say.
Go for it, Ellie.
I'm going to give it to you from a slightly different perspective because I'm fortunate to work with some professional players and give you that perspective. And the professional players, a lot of them, they don't use the rubbers they do use the rubber that's on the market, but it's actually, they get a special rubber that's like not designed for them, but they get the best of the rubber. So for example, when it's made, they get the best part.
Right.
Now, that obviously clearly tells you that equipment is important, but we must understand how is it important. It's important in terms of marginal gains. And that's the most important element that we must, everyone that plays must understand. If I give you a Ferrari, it doesn't matter how amazing the Ferrari is. If you don't know how to drive, forget it. You're not going to be able to get the best out of that Ferrari. So let's say we have the best drivers, and the best drivers all have a Ferrari. We have to tweak each car according to the person. So if someone's taller, then the seat might need to be a bit further back. If someone's needs a bit more, it's got better turning reaction, then they might need a faster wheel to turn or whatever. But what I'm trying to say is really is marginal gains, and
at the top level,
it's marginal gains, and I think also, and I think the problem with a lot of people, what they see is they see the top boys going, oh, I'm changing to a new carbon fiber, and they think, oh, that must work for them, that'll work for me. And that's where the big issues come in. So, you know, most of us, if we're driving around in a Ford Focus or in a Corsa or whatever, we're going from A to B. And that's where most of us are. We're playing at a reasonable level and we're going from A to B effectively. At the top end, when you're talking about the Formula One guys, it's the marginal things, that the tires, that makes a tiny bit of difference that will give them the edge they need to potentially win more matches.
Cool.
I agree with that.
That's a good way of putting it, actually, Ellie.
I use the Formula One analogy quite a lot myself, I must admit. I think it works well.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that is good. Okay, so going on from that, so the other question is why is there a poor uptake in the sport with regards to youngsters coming in? Why do you think this is? I mean, obviously there's 101 reasons, but
so I was going to say it's 8:10. We'll keep going to midnight with this question.
I know.
Can I just answer this one first? I would turn that around. I don't think there's a poor uptake as such. I think the problem is that there's a poor record of kind of keeping players in the game. For example, after school clubs, there's never usually any problem of getting enough to fill the kind of class. Then the next problem is getting the players from the after school club to the main club session. So the initial uptake is quite good usually. And then even the club level, a lot of clubs have a lot of juniors, and even some of them are full. Look at Chelmsford, it's ridiculous. They've got hundreds. I don't know exactly how many, but I think the problem is keeping the players in the game beyond kind of age 15, 16, 18, whatever. And I think the reason for that is that they've got
Girls
so
and
many
beer.
other
Girls and beer.
girls and beer, yeah.
Yeah.
They've also got so many other activities they can be doing. They've got schoolwork. I think the kind of times have changed a bit. I mean, it's probably the same with other sports as well. But yeah, it's I wouldn't say that the initial uptake itself is that low. I mean,
So it's just holding them then. Basically, it's just holding them or trying to keep them in the game.
Keeping them in the game, and that's the kind of difficult aspect, I would say.
I see Rory said
so
there
many other
about
distractions.
yeah, so the school stuff, the after school clubs and stuff. Yeah, I've seen I get plenty. Probably in any given week, I probably work with about 250 kids across different schools, but it is just school stuff. It's after school clubs, and they don't see anything outside of it. There's no table tennis structure, and you talk to them or you talk to the parents, and it's not on their radar. They understand. Parents understand. It's going to sound a little bit sexist here, unfortunately, but the guys, the dads, they understand football because they've all done it. The women, the mums, maybe gymnastics. In Cornwall, we've got a gymnastics centre. The waiting list is months and months and months. They've done it, and they bring their daughters and sons through. Table tennis, I think, again, if we look at the age gap, we miss a lot between 25 and 45. Players don't play. You said it yourself, Ali, yeah? So they're not bringing their sons and daughters into table tennis at that age either. And having the family thing there, which we might be seeing in these other sports. I think that's a big thing. If we haven't got people playing in that 25 to 45 age group, they're not going to bring their kids into the game. I think that's a big thing myself. And there's loads of reasons, other reasons too.
Would you guys agree to that sort of scenario? It's just it's not as if we can't get the kids. It's just the fact that how do we keep them really from that age?
You go into schools now with like working to Swerve. I go into schools, and years ago you would get kids coming through from the schools, but now you go into the schools and the school kids love it because it's a brilliant sport. But now they don't come from the school, so getting them to transfer from the school to the club is a major issue. When you're in the school itself, you think to yourself, I've handed out all them leaflets and the kids are going to say, oh yeah, I want to come, I'm definitely going to come, what time is it? And then you wait the next day for them to come and they don't come anymore. And that never used to be the case, but in the last 5-10 years, I feel that that's definitely got more and more like that all the time. But I think the biggest problem table tennis has got, unlike any other sport, is media attention. We do not have enough media attention.
Yeah, I did put it. Yeah, it's just okay. It's not on the radar. We don't have that TV coverage, those role models. Yeah. And I hear, and obviously this was before my time, but so many people in the veteran circuit talk about the '77 games in Birmingham and what that did. I was a year and a half old when that happened, so it's before my time. But that kind of event, from what I gather, it got so many people playing, and obviously the kids got it, but the parents or the older people, they were into it as well. And they could build it, and we don't really have that, sadly.
It was, I don't know if any of you remember it, but unfortunately I am old enough, and it was the most incredible thing that I've ever witnessed. It was all day, every day for a fortnight, just hour after hour of table tennis, just every match going. It was just the most amazing thing. And obviously Des was about at the time and at the top of his career. I think England sent about a dozen players into it. It was an amazing event, and it was incredibly well televised as well. They really did a good job of it. And unfortunately, since then, it's the media's let it go.
There's a big
it's a strange scenario, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. I mean, again, there's that whole thing about people not seeing it as a sport as well. I last summer or just before summer, my stepson was going into year 7, so we did the whole visiting the schools and everything. Lots of new schools, but they've all got outdoor tables. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's just seen as a little bit of a game. So
almost like a mess about sport as opposed to a sport.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen so many tables in schools and stuff, outdoor tables, permanent tables. But yeah, it's just seen as a bit of a. It's great seeing it's a bit of fun, but it's not taken seriously, unfortunately.
I have a
So-
different spin on it.
Yeah, go Elroy.
Initially, I blamed the governing body. And the governing body doesn't look into, I mean, you had Desmond Douglas. They didn't make the most of that. You have Drinkle. How many times did Drinkle won the
Liam Pitchford and Drinkle.
Drinkle first? Drinkle won it about 4 times first, right?
Probably more.
Or more.
6 times. They both won it 6 times.
Then Pitchford. You as a governing body supposed to be using your marketing team to put these guys out. Every school should know, if you care about the sport, you're supposed to be putting the money in to market these guys so people know who Liam Pitchford is, who Paul Drinkle is. And if you ask, even table tennis youngsters doesn't know who they are.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I think yeah, it's how they market it really, and what they should be doing to market it to make it.
One of the things that doesn't help is, in all honesty, it's a bloody difficult game. It's a really exciting game once you get good at it.
But it's hard to learn, isn't it?
It's so difficult.
It is hard to learn. It's a hard to learn game. I mean, someone said to me, it's like, it's like, I don't know, playing chess at 100 miles an hour. It's a hard game to learn. It's not like you can grab a football and get a load of kids round and they can start kicking a football straight away. It's hours and hours and hours and hours of learning of how to actually play, and it's not just hitting a ball over there. It's the spins, it's the pace, it's the.
I think that's the problem with table tennis. Why you're not getting a lot of youngsters in?
It's difficult to learn. It's difficult to learn. I think a lot of it is. It's difficult to learn.
The thing that gets me is when you get people up to a good level, and they obviously, they've gone through that and they've played and they enjoyed it. Well, I can't understand why they'd suddenly stop enjoying it, or not want to keep playing when they've put all the time in and they've got to a good level. I mean, for me, if I like something, I like it. I don't just suddenly stop liking it. So
I like to put in. I'd like to say to you, put my opinion. I think I can possibly answer that. So first of all, poor uptake in table tennis. I agree with Rory. Definitely, there is a great uptake, and I'll give you a quick example. When I was at Harefield, we had the Watford Academy. The Watford Academy had 16 coaches. I was one coach. I had 80 kids on my program. They had 120 kids with £2 million budget. So
wow.
you can see that it's not necessarily the uptake. It's the big difference between us and the other sports is the structure of where can they go. So I had 80 kids, and in my program, it was a full-time program, and the kids felt like, okay, I can do something special here. But my fall rate was quite quick, and the Watford football, they had loads stay. Why? Because they could see that they could potentially earn millions. They could potentially be on billboards. They could potentially be playing in front of 50,000 people. In tennis, we don't have that. But this is where the difference is. If you go to China and India, which I've just been to India, they have 1.3 billion people. China has 1.3 billion people. Why does China have so many table tennis players compared to India? Because of the structure. If you go into any industry, so for example, if I go into a local shop and I get a job there, 90% of the time I'm thinking, well, in 6 months' time, I'm going to go and get another job somewhere else. I need to see a ladder for me to grow. In China, you go around, you've got billboards of all the top athletes. They're drinking Coca-Cola. They're endorsing these massive companies. They're superstars. They're driving around in Bentleys and Maseratis.
So there's a pathway.
There's a pathway, exactly. There's a pathway. We don't have a pathway in England and in most countries. I mean, in France you do. Germany you do. Absolutely. And, there's full-time programs. There's 3,000 professional full-time coaches in France. There is 3,000 full-time table tennis centers. How many have we got here? 30?
Yeah, it's nuts, isn't it?
And so what I'm trying to say is that, yes, I agree with everyone's points, but ultimately we haven't built a structure for the future generations to go, oh, this is the future for me. And the reason why I love table tennis so much is because when I went to London Progress as a young kid, I saw the top boys playing in front of a small crowd, and I was like, I can see a future here for me. So I felt encouraged and motivated to go further. But if I continued staying in my local little club, which was in a little synagogue with 3 tables and very low level players, probably today you wouldn't see me play table tennis anymore, because there wasn't anywhere to grow. I think that's the most important part, and I think that's where Elroy is right.
So it's trying to work out, or some of these governing bodies to work it, to get it to a stage where, what is the bigger picture?
Yeah, and it's not that hard, if I'm really honest with you. I mean, all you need to do is go and look
for all
at
these youngsters and players. What is the bigger picture? And putting them on that path to saying, well, look, here's where you are. Yeah. Here's where you could be.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to say to you, I saw the program yesterday, the ping pong show, and they had 4 youngsters on there, and it was so sad for me. It was so sad. I mean, they're winning national championships, and Table Tennis England don't even just give them a call and say, "Hey,
ring and say, well done."
Well done. It's unbelievable. Oh my God, I felt so.
I did. I felt sorry for it as well. I was like, what's going on with that?
It's unreal. It's unreal. Whether they're in the squad or not, who gives a rubber? Who gives a crap? Give them a tap on the back and say congratulations.
Yeah, do something. Yeah, Jesus. And yet, they're still so keen.
yes, and they're still playing.
Still so keen, and yet they don't get not even a well done, guys, or anything like that. It's quite bizarre, isn't it?
It's a sad situation, and this is one of the reasons why me personally, I try my best to promote the sport as much as possible, to show people that there is a pathway. Not everyone can do it, but there is a pathway, and a lot of my friends and the non-table tennis people are like, how you made a career out of something that you can't make a career out of. My wife was an estate agent, and they think that she's the breadwinner. Well, in fact, I actually earn a lot more than her. But in their minds, he can't be earning any money. You're taking care of your husband. In a way,
Yeah.
I can kind of understand how top players give up, because they've put all this time, they've had a goal of being a professional player, they don't quite make it, and it's hard to go from a goal of being a professional player to just kind of playing locally in British League and Grand Prix. But I don't really get why your kind of average player gives up. Your average player who never had goals of being a professional player, and I think the system does cater for average players. I mean, I don't know.
Possibly one of those reasons, because they've got no system, no goals, so they're not keen to improve. And they go into every season, who's going to win the league, who's going to get relegated, and so there's
and it's very expensive now to play these tournaments.
Exactly. Yeah, there is that. It is quite expensive. I mean,
it's not an easy question, is it? Really?
No, it's a tough one. That
only for reasons, yeah.
Well, look, I'm going to move on. From that, because we could dwell on that for probably another hour, and we've been at it for a while now. But I mean, I don't really care, because
I say good luck with the editing.
Yeah, good luck. I'm going to split this up into probably about 12 episodes, I think, and call it the Coaching Corner box set or something like that. I don't know.
Are you going to put your company name on it? Sponsored by?
Yeah, AJP contractors. Okay, so just really briefly, and I know this is really hard for you guys to do, but the best coaching advice that you guys have ever had. God, that's such a really, really big question. Maybe we should leave that one till another episode. I don't know, but yeah. So the best advice that you've had from, say, another coach, someone who you looked up to, what would it be? Say, Henry.
Well, this is interesting. So I've got notes for all these questions, and the answer I've got for this is none. Right. I couldn't really think of the best advice I've had from another coach. Now, whether that's because I haven't gone out and asked people, or they've not given it, or not. The only, I suppose, when I did my level 1 qualification, I think it was, and also a CPD I did. Gordon Fern was running some stuff, and that was all about fun and sort of fun game stuff. And so probably that sticks in mind from some stuff from Gordon Fern, some of the fun games and stuff he was doing. But a specific piece of advice, I cannot sort of think of anything that really stuck out. So I that's my answer. Done.
Okay, done.
Nice.
Well done. All right, Elroy, what anything for you?
Yeah, I think the best advice I've got is from Ellie.
Okay.
Yeah, and
He is a
Ellie-
wise man, mind. He is.
No,
wise.
no, I'm
Ellie.
definitely not. It's
He is
Stevie that
wise.
teaches me everything.
just tell me
Yeah,
to continue with what I'm doing, and I'm doing quite well for someone who just came back in the game. You know, I get a lot of inspiration from Ellie.
Cool.
To carry on fighting.
Yeah,
Nice. That's
Yeah,
a great
no,
piece
that's
of
cool.
advice, actually.
Yeah.
In our ways, that a lot of people give up too quickly.
yeah. And when I started, the talks behind my back was I'd never make it. I'm just a big mouth who will not achieve nothing.
I still get that now. Don't worry about it.
We everyone here gets that. We all get that.
Yeah.
The more you put yourself out there, the more you get it.
Yeah, for sure.
What about you, Rory?
So I was thinking about this, and I thought, well, I never had any coaching as a kid. I never really had anybody coaching me at the corner. The only coaching I've ever had is at training camps. So that's where and again, I couldn't really narrow it down to one. So I've got about 3 or 4. So I remember one piece of advice was when you're stepping out after doing a short ball, to only step out partially. If you step fully out and it's short again, you're not going to get back in again for that short ball. I got that was from Sweden. Another one is when you're doing this is also from Sweden. When you're doing drop shots, to go a bit sideways. Yeah, because because it's going sideways, it's going to go a bit shorter. If you go forwards, the ball's not going to go short enough. Another one is when you're doing backspin serves, to keep your elbow nice and low, because if you bring your elbow up, you're going to start getting more side spin on your serve. And then maybe one more would be when you're kind of getting your ready position to kind of be left foot forwards, because that kind of, you can still do your forehand with your rotation, but it doesn't stop you from doing a backhand as long as you're far enough away from the table. So yeah, that'd be my
your one tip.
So do you think, Rory, as a coach, though, that's all.
Rory's just done a coaching session there, I think.
That's all coaching advice for a player. Rory, is there one thing advice for a coach for you? You think, oh yeah, that's really.
Yeah, so as another coach,
all of these bits of advice I can take into my own coaching and use that to coach other people.
That's true.
Yeah. So what about you? What about you, Ellie? What sort of?
Okay, well, actually, I thought about the question hard, and I'm thinking, how can I answer it so people can really learn from it? And I phoned up one of my friends. He's one of the top coaches in the world as a football coach, and we always have great discussions about the difference between football and table tennis, which one's harder, all that kind of stuff. And we have always agreed on one thing, and that one thing is individualism. And many coaches out there don't quite, not just coaches, even players, don't quite understand that it's not a system. You mustn't be in a system, because if you're in a system, it might help Jimmy and Joe, but it won't help all the others. And you have to be very, very careful. So when you're stepping into a hole as a player or whether you're a coach, if you're stepping into a hole and everyone's doing the same thing, 9 times out of 10, that's not going to work for you. So you have to be an individual. And as a coach, you have to find how to help the individual, not how to help systematically. Because a lot of coaches, what they do is they learn one way and they think, oh, that's the way I learned. I'll teach it for the rest of the people. So for me, that's a huge lesson. And I want to just a little bit elaborate on that. I learned an amazing lesson from one of my students And he said to me, look, Ellie, you might live to 80, 90, 100 if you're lucky. And you're going to have those years of experience. And that gives you 80, 90 years of experience. But if you read books and you study, your experience level becomes infinity. So take all these lessons from as many people as you can, read books and all that kind of stuff, and use that to help as many different people instead of just having your own experience and giving out your own experience.
Cool.
That's good.
Steve?
Right, I thought this was a brilliant question. I love this question, and like Ellie, I really thought about it, and two things popped into my head straight away. But then when I thought about it, I was quite disappointed because two bits of advice came from different sports, not from table tennis, and a little bit like Rory, I couldn't think of anything from table tennis. The two bits that I got, one was from a tennis course I did a level 1 tennis course, and I was quite fortunate. The guy who was taking the tennis course, it was a 4-day event thing, and he took ill. And there happened to be a party of people, and a tennis coach from America had come over with this party of people just to see the opening of this centre. And the guy hadn't turned up, so he jumped in and took his place, and it was one of the best half-a-day sessions I've ever had of any coaching. And you know what tennis is like, a little bit more stuck up than table tennis. You all had the white gear on with half a dozen rackets in the bags and
Strawberries and creams on the side.
Yeah. And this guy, his best thing was he got a tennis ball and he put a penknife through it and said to someone, right, you're going to play with that. And then he got a bean bag and a super ball and a balloon and all different things. And we all had to play. And at Fest, all the players were moaning like mad. Oh, this is rubbish. I'm not enjoying it. And he had people doing forehands and backhands with all these different. And you had to move from one station to the other. So you went with every single type of ball. And after about 2 or 3 minutes, everybody got a little bit better at doing what they were doing. And at the end, he lined everybody up and he lined every ball along the floor in front of us, or beanbag and whatever. And he said, you all moaned. He said, if I made you all play with this brilliant ball on this fantastic AstroTurf, he said, you're all going to play well, but he said, you're never going to learn to adapt. And he said, I've just given you all them different things. And he said, you all learn to adapt. And he said, I'll tell you now, the top players in the world will make this fantastic tennis ball play like that beanbag, like that super ball. But they can make an ordinary ball do all the different things. You've just had to come there. And he said, you must learn to adapt. And I just thought it was such a brilliant thing. And one of the things when I set Swerve up, which never quite came off, but I would have liked to have done, is have different tables. So, have a Yola table, a butterfly table, Donia table, and stuff like that, because then people will learn to adapt to different tables. But when you go in a club, everybody gets used to their actual sort of environment.
Yeah.
But really, when you go to a competition or you play in different venues, the environment changes and you've got to learn to adapt. And a lot of players can't do that. So, I learned about adaptation, and I bring that into my coaching quite a lot. But unfortunately, it wasn't from table tennis coaching. I learned that.
But it was a good bit of advice by the sound of it. Okay, so I'll go on to my last question, which is sort of from the group. There was quite a few actually, but we're not going to get through them all. So I thought I would pick the most appropriate to the coaches and everything that they do, because there was some really, really good ones. So I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with Simon Morgan's, was your best win more enjoyable than sex?
No, simples.
I had to do it.
I have to think about that one.
I'm going to say definitely not, because I'm good at sex and not good at table tennis. There we go.
If anybody says yes, they're doing it wrong.
I thought I thought
I'd
I'd
say
leave us
yes
on a
and no.
funny note. That was all.
For me, it's actually a yes and no, because the sex is great and you feel high for about 24, 48 hours. But if
Just
you
say
have a good
seconds.
win, it can last for a year. You know, that feeling.
Yeah, Simon
That's the
Morgan
only
has
difference,
got
I would say.
Simon Morgan has got a point.
I thought it was going to be about the serving rule, actually, when you mentioned his name.
Yes.
The question is for everybody here: how many trophies you got for table tennis, and how many trophies you got for having sex? You know.
That's a good point. Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Simon Morgan might have shitloads. I don't know. Well, look,
There's
guys.
only one sort of rubber he uses.
I don't know. There's quite a few, I think. Look, guys, I'm going to have to leave it there because we've been rabbiting on for a long time about some really cool stuff, and I think we're going to have to do this all again. And if you guys are up for another coaching session, then I really am, because
Sure.
I think it's great. It's great chatting to you guys with the wealth of experience and knowledge that you guys have. It's incredible, and I'm sure that we could probably delve into many, many, many stories on your travels and stuff, which I would like to follow up at some point. And I'm sure there'd be some quite funny ones as well.
Yeah.